What is going on, good people? Thank you for tuning in to another edition of Say That Podcast. And as always, don't say this, say that. Yo, thank you for that, Mike.
I had to jump in.
You had to jump in. That was your first time doing it. This week, I switched up the mics a little bit. Not just the recorded mics, but the actual guest mic here, right here.
The microphones are definitely the same.
Oh, yes, exactly. Right. I never switch them up. Right. But as you can see, to the left of me, we got Mike Scarfo, the man behind Turntable Teachers and one of the current owners, I should say, of the gorgeous studio we are sitting in, AOA Studios. If you are in the Beverly area, or even if you're in the North Shore area, hit them up. It's AOAstudios.com. Please go record your music, get your podcast needs here, get everything you need here. If you're in the North Shore, we highly recommend it. So, but before we get into the interview, I want to thank everybody who's been tuning in the last 3 episodes. You know, the comeback's been very well. I love it. We love it. Everyone's love it. It's great. It's great. It's good. All right, so as I mentioned before, you are the creator, or at least one of the creators of AOA Studios.
I am, yes,
so,
sir.
How did that idea come to be? Because I personally feel like from watching Turntable Teachers over the years, I feel like, you did a lot of jumping around from studio to studio to try to find 100%. That consistent home. And then you said, you know what, screw it, I'm going to build it. So how was that process for you?
Well, first off, before I answer that question, I want to thank you for having me.
Oh, of course.
It's really, I was telling you, it's really weird sitting on this side of the room. Turntable Teachers set's actually on the opposite side of the room, and usually when I'm recording your podcast, I'm sitting in that seat. Exactly. So it's funny to be here.
You've now touched all 3 bases in the room.
I'm literally, I've done the around the world, so to speak.
Exactly.
Thank you for the question. I really appreciate it. It's funny, so AOA Studios was actually not my idea. I cannot take credit for it. Zafir Madyoun and Cam Ayandolo, big shout out to them. They're both my co-owners here, or the co-owners here, I should say. They approached me in October of 2022, so a little over a year ago, about the prospect of opening a studio. And they were looking for a third guy, and they thought I'd be a good addition as somebody who's not an audio engineer, not somebody that's an artist, but coming from a bit more of the media side, the podcasting side, the marketing sort of side. And also just because we had grown to be very close friends, the 3 of us. They have a lot more history between the 2 of them than I have with them, just because they've known each other for a really long time. They've been frequent collaborators, but they're 2 of the very first artists I ever had on my podcast.
Wow.
Before we were ever doing audio.
And that's going back how many years now?
That would be almost 5 years ago now. Four and a half years ago.
Incredible. Yeah.
It's crazy. Yeah, Zafir was probably like our 3rd or 4th guest, and then Cam was probably like our 8th or 9th. And I met Cam through Z, which has been beautiful. But yeah, no, I mean, I started out, dude. I was living in Medford, living in like an attic sort of room with 3 other guys. You know how it goes.
Listen, nowadays you got to make whatever do to live and by yourself.
Oh, 100%.
With roommates nowadays because of how high rent prices are. So
it's crazy.
I don't blame you.
It was good friends of mine though. We loved it. But yeah, I met a friend through a friend. Long story short, really hit it off. Both music nerds.
Hell yeah.
And the first episode we ever recorded was in my bedroom at that Medford house at Brewster Road, and it was a Guitar Hero microphone in a cup.
Wow!
And we talked, and we had not what you see here.
Guitar Hero microphone. That's throwing it back.
It was crazy, and we both sat in a chair and we talked down into the microphone because we didn't have a stand for it. Wow!
So we put it on. It's like back breaking and like hurting your neck and stuff. Because imagine
we put it on a table and we put it in, like I said, in a cup.
Yeah.
In the mic. Yeah. It was.
Wow.
It was nuts.
Wow.
So to be here, like sometimes it's crazy because I feel like you're right. Like it's good to like reflect on where you've been, so that way you know where you remind yourself of where you are,
right,
how far you've come, and then how much further you need to go. Like this. This is still surreal to me. Like this is coming up on about a year since we signed the lease and got in here. So actually, like top of the new year will be when we like moved in.
Wow.
And then April will be mark about the year of our being in business. It's surreal. Like I if you had told me 4.5 years ago this is where I'd be sitting, I would tell you you're crazy. I never would have thought in a million years that this is where I'd be. And it's funny how things work out. I had no prospect of ever doing this. I had a co-host. He decided it wasn't for him anymore after about 8 months. And then I had a choice to either continue Turntable Teachers or just hang it up. I had friends of mine that, to their credit, shout out Sam and Presh, both of them were like, you have something here, go with it, run with it. So I did. I just didn't know what I wanted to do because, as you know, it's not easy to run a podcast by yourself.
No,
like you can't.
Absolutely.
It's difficult. And you don't want to be just talking into the camera by yourself. Like that's kind of.
It's the worst. And to get off that point, I actually had a radio show my freshman year of college.
Yeah.
Because, that's what I went for. I went for sports communications, but communications as a whole, it's the spectrum.
Yeah.
So I had a radio show at WLAS, shout out to them, at LaSalle College in Newton, or now LaSalle University. They gained university status. And I was like,
Shout out
okay,
LaSalle.
exactly. What am I going to talk about? I'm like, okay, I know sports, so I'm going to talk about sports. It was cool because, like, obviously, your friends would tune in, your family, but it's like you're sitting there for 2 hours on like a Saturday talking to yourself.
Yep.
And I'm like, at certain points, I stopped. I was like, what the hell am I doing? Like, I'm like driving myself insane. Like obviously, researching sports is easy.
That's the easy part.
You're talking about NFL, NBA. I'm a wrestling fan, so I was talking about that. But you're like, I need somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
And that's, I feel like, with podcasts, that's what, you should do. Like, yeah, my regular co-host isn't here, but the owner is. So it's, we're going to get a good conversation off. But, like, if you're just, like, talking to yourself, like, for, like,
forget
2
it.
hours,
Worst.
like, it's the worst. It really is. It's just, you can't do that.
Those are the episodes that are by myself, which there are very few far in between. They're typically my least favorite to not only listen to. I don't really ever listen to my episodes back. Do you ever listen to your episodes back?
And you know what? It's the Johnny Depp thing. He never watches any of the movies he's in because he already knows what happens. He's like, why not? Yeah, it's like, no, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but like you said, like, I know what I said.
Yeah,
I know the conversations went down and stuff like that. Actually, shout out to Chairman Chow. He said, like, once you hear, like, because he does mixing and producing and stuff like that. He's like, once you hear, like, stuff over and over again, you're like, all right, I'm sick of this. Actually,
it's brutal.
It's like,
it's brutal.
If I have to go back and maybe find like a throwback clip, yeah, I'll do that. But like, I'll skim through the episode.
It's like you're not going to listen to the whole
no,
thing
I
anymore.
can't.
No.
It's like I'll gladly listen to anybody else's podcast. Any of those podcasts from the city, yours. But like you said, I know what I said. It's not worth it for me to go back and tell it.
100%.
Yeah.
And I listen to my own episodes anyway because I edit them. I edit all my own episodes as well. So I feel like I've already listened to it. I know where all the timestamps are because I got to clip it all up as well. I'm kind of a one-man show from that perspective. But yeah, this has just been the coolest experience of my life, I will say. Like, and it would never have happened because I moved in with my cousin in 2019, like towards the tail end, and he was like, the day I moved in, he was like, hey, do you want to go to this like local show? I got my friend of mine's playing at a show and at Icon, and his name was Washi at the time. Shout out to Washi. He was actually the first guest that ever came on Turntable Teachers.
There you go.
And so we're in the car and he's like, again, a big supporter of me and everything I'm doing. And he's like, have you ever thought about interviewing artists? And I'm like, it's not a bad idea. Yeah. And he's like, well, you should ask Washi, see if he's down to be interviewed. So on a whim, when I got there, I was talking to him, whatever, and he agreed. The lineup that night was Washi, Marcel Stefan, who, by the way, did our intro music. Our intro jingle.
Yeah.
That intro jingle is by Marcel Stefan. My buddy Sam had been up my ass for months. Like, bro, you need an intro song. You're a music podcast.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm like, yo, I don't make music. What are you talking about, right? The first thing Marcel said when I so he walked by, I dapped him up. I said, great set. He has a song Michael Christmas, so I was familiar with Michael Christmas already. Go. I had no idea about the Boston scene or the Mass scene at all. The first thing he says to me when he finds out at podcast, he goes, do you have intro music? It's like divine fate. And then the headliner, guess who the headliner was that night?
Was Michael Christmas on the card?
No, he was on. So Marcel Stefan had a song with Michael Christmas, and he was talking about it.
Yeah, okay.
The headliner was Zafir.
Oh, what?
Isn't that crazy?
Dude, that is insane. How
so
it's just
imagine if I don't go to that show tonight.
Just all came together.
That night. Imagine I don't go to that show.
Absolutely.
Isn't it insane?
There might not be Turntable Teachers.
There might not be. Turntable Teachers might be gone. There would definitely be AOA Studios.
No, absolutely.
Or at least I wouldn't be a part of it. Yeah, dude. And then it just kind of went from there. Like Washi, Washi came on, and then Zafir knew Washi, so Zafir saw the episode. Was like, now I want to come on. You did a great job, and like. We were like audio only at that point. I was recording in my cousin's basement. So it went from my own room to my cousin's basement. And then I made my own studio in my house, and we only had a couple of people. And it was literally, dude, it was like half of my bedroom.
Yeah.
Like I had like this half wall that split. Like I had my bedroom on one side and then like essentially what you.
I think
what
I've
you guys
seen that in like I think you did that for the masterclass announcement, which we'll get into later.
Yes,
but I did see that. I was like, that room's a vibe. What the hell?
Yeah, yeah, and
Hell
you would never think, but only a select few people have actually been up there to see it. Right. It would be Felix from Van Buren.
Okay, shout out to him.
Shout out Felix, Marcel Stefan, and it might have been like Washi and like Phoenix Rios. So only 4 people, and then the pandemic hit, so then it was all Zoom.
Right.
And I was at Nowhere for a while with John Glass and Melks, and shout out to those
love
guys.
That place.
Fuck
Absolutely
those guys are fucking incredible, fucking amazing guys.
The Surreal 5-year anniversary.
Yes.
So many people there, but that's besides the point.
Yeah. But anyway, and then here. So that's a little take
awesome,
of the journey.
Man. And you know what? It's cool because that's kind of how Say That went in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So, like you said, you were audio only. We were audio only till about literally week 15.
Yeah.
I think like February 2021 was when we got a camera, because obviously it's costly to get a camera.
Of course.
And so we made do with the audio, on Apple, Spotify. We even had SoundCloud going for a while.
Yep.
But yeah, and starting during the pandemic, I think if you run a platform and you were going through that, actually just like C-Dub did. They started in 2020 as well.
Yeah, no, I mean C-Dub started right around the same time we started doing video, because the first time we ever did video was like Zoom interviews.
Right.
So it's like, oh, cool.
How do you feel about Zoom interviews?
So you want to be let in a little secret?
Yeah.
I feel like I should say we, because I had some people on the team at that time. I feel like we kind of figured out and perfected the Zoom interview.
Nice.
So what I would do is I would be recording my own audio in a DAW in the background.
Okay.
And I would have the artist that came on either do the same thing, or at least just have their phone handy and record on voice memos, and then I would just get rid of the Zoom audio. And I would edit in that audio. And it kind of weirdly sounded like we were in the same room. Like if you were just listening on audio. At least it was clearer. I'll put it that way.
Oh, absolutely.
You didn't have all the staticky. You wouldn't have to worry about shit cutting out.
Because that's my problem with Zoom interviews. It's just it's on Zoom.
So if there's anybody that does Zoom videos, there's your little hack.
You just got the best tip ever right there. What the heck?
Get rid of the Zoom audio and record your own audio separately. So record, honestly, even if both of you, the microphone can even be fake. You can just have it could be for prop.
Yeah.
Use
absolutely
voice memos on your phone.
Hell yeah, that's awesome.
And it's not as perfect not perfect, but it's not as good as a microphone. But
no, but
it's going to be better.
I never even thought of that.
And then in post, you just line it all up.
Yeah, holy shit.
And then just cut it all up, cut out the old.
That's awesome. I mean, so that's probably the best way to get use out of a Zoom interview, because like I said, it's just listening to audio podcasts, and obviously it's during 2020, so they're not going to be in the same room together.
Yep, exactly.
They're going to be on Zoom, or even worse, they're like on a call.
Exactly. And then tip number 2, you record in what they call it, grid view. So it would be you and the two of you side by side. Have them record in speaker view. That's so only when this person that's speaking is talking. So then they're going to send you the file afterwards. So that way you have 2 camera angles. So if anything cuts out, you can just switch back and forth between camera angles. And since you want them to do speaker view, because you would think that their video feed when they're talking is going to be much more crisp than when you're talking, because you're coming in. So you have those 2 audio files, and then you just line everything up. I mean, it would be a pain in the ass to line them up, and not always. Sometimes it wouldn't always line up perfectly, but you get it about as close as you could.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow.
So
you literally, listen, you're getting all free tips here. So if you listen to this episode,
just free tips.
If you're a podcaster,
still book with us though.
Oh, absolutely. Please,
because the in-person's better.
I'd rather you book with them than go on Zoom.
But if you're gonna do Zoom interviews, in my opinion, that's the best way to do it.
No, it definitely
and then you eliminate all those, like you eliminate the the issues of internet going out or like whatever. You have 2 files to work, video files to work with.
Computer dies or something stupid like that.
I mean, whatever. I mean, even in real life and in-person interviews, I mean, there's glitches happen all the time. Like, so it's like, try to, I mean, we have 3 cameras going just right now, just in case anything dies.
Just as a heads up, right. There are currently 3 cameras on us. But you said you had Felix on from Van Buren?
I did.
That's awesome, because
I did.
He, like, the track he just dropped, it was Paris Fashion Week, I believe.
That sounds
I said it.
crazy.
I'm like, and first of all, to date this episode, we're a day removed from the GTA 6 trailer coming out.
I haven't seen it yet, but I saw you post about it.
Oh my God. I'm like, this is everything I wanted and more. But I commented, I'm like, Paris Fashion Week should be in GTA.
Oh, that sounds like
it
that's a GTA song.
Especially because it's
GTA
in
vibes.
Vice City, and you're like, cruising out. You put that on, you're like, yeah, hell yeah.
Yeah.
So shout out to Felix. Shout out to the whole
Cut
Van
from
Buren,
different
actually.
club.
Don't tell my
I say
clothes.
different
Yeah.
now. That shit's fire. And then, the feature he had on Brent Fires' shit was insane.
That's what I mean. Listen,
Shout out
man,
Felix, bro.
Absolutely. The
Shout out Van
scene's
Buren.
in a excellent place. I really just think I believe that fully.
100%,
So this
bro.
past weekend, I think it might be 2 weeks now, I've gone to the C4 Spirit of a Warrior show. Excellent. The Surreal 5-year Blank Slate show. Also excellent. And what's so cool about that is like you said, 3 years ago, I would have never imagined that. I was just starting a podcast with, a guy I just met through another guy.
100%.
So, and now, I'm, these people know me, and, that's so cool. Because
Isn't it cool? It's dope.
I went to,
Good time.
I walked into the Surreal show. Jeff Porter was there, my guy.
Shout out Big
Zay.
Jeff. Shout out Jeff Porter.
He literally tapped me on the shoulder. I was
Big
like,
shout out Zay.
that was I was like, holy shit, hits just keep on coming. Isaac Groove was there.
Big
Skizzo
shout out
was
Isaac.
there.
We
Skate
love
the
Isaac.
Great. Meech was performing.
Love Meech.
Exit Fame was performing. And then, you had Surreal as the headliner.
Yeah.
KMF was performing too. Shout out T and all of them. So I'm like, wow, dude. I'm like, that gave me such good what's it when when your brain gets so happy? What's it called? It's not called serotonin.
Serotonin.
It is called
Yeah,
serotonin.
yeah,
Okay.
serotonin.
I get that mixed with serotonin and melatonin.
Melatonin is sleep.
Right.
So it's
Okay. I
almost the
always get
opposite of
that
what you want.
confused. But yeah, I was like, wow, that was I left there. I was like, that was the shit.
Well,
that was so cool.
Well, off your point too, the scene's in a good place when you feel like you can't make it to every freaking show because there's so many notes.
Right.
So you went to those two, and I missed you at those because I was trying to go to both of those. I couldn't because of other prior obligations. But then the two I was at, you were Justin Clancy and Chase Murphy,
You're right.
and both of those shows were killer.
That was going on the same night, I think. Chase Murphy and Clark D. Right.
Chase Murphy, Clark D was the same night as C4.
C4, right.
So I chose to go that one because no disrespect to C4.
Right.
Love you, C4. But Chase had just invited me out. So it's all right, sure. I actually didn't even find out about the C4 one actually till a lot later on. I think you were the one that even told me about that. The C4. I'm like, I didn't even see that. Because that's the other thing about friggin' social media. Sometimes you just don't see everything as you would love to. And then Clancy's was the next weekend, the next Friday. Dude, it's so dope that the scene is in such a great place, and you have all these amazing talents, and they're all putting on really great events, and people are getting together, and it's even artists you wouldn't have expected. I would never expected Surreal and Exit Fame to be on the same bill,
Right.
And Meech, that's a great lineup.
That's such a good combo.
It's a great combo.
That's such a good diverse combo of music.
But it all still works together,
right?
So
but like you said, the scene's in good place because you have options to go to these.
Exactly.
shows.
Every weekend, dude. You have something to go to.
Weekend.
It's
even
so dope.
And just wait till next year. We didn't even have Commonwealth Fest this year.
Remember
that? The Cousin Sis Festival?
I know. That's
got
right.
canceled?
That got canceled.
I hope that comes back next year because that lineup was insane too.
And then obviously shout out to Mo Pope and Ark and Tim and
St.
Chris
Paul
and John for Gold Fest. Dude, yeah. I mean, think about that too. It was free for the public. That's
Right in
incredible.
City Hall
Right in
Plaza,
City
too.
Hall. It couldn't be better. There's just so many options, and there's so many great venues, and that's the thing. I was worried about that. Coming back from COVID, you hear it all, all these different venues that might close or whatever,
Or that did close.
right? And then you had other ones that have popped up and are doing really well. And again, things aren't. Maybe we're being a little bit optimistic, but that is me by nature. I'm typically an optimistic guy.
Absolutely.
And I love what I'm seeing, and I'm the same dude. Dude, it's incredible, bro, to go to these events and. I'm not the person. I'm not in the front row. I never have been. Even when I was younger.
Absolutely.
I'm not really, unless I'm a huge fan. But even then, I've never really been a front row guy. So I like to hang in the back. I like to just kind of enjoy the music.
Get a drink,
Yeah. I really don't honestly even drink anymore. So I don't even. I just I get my water. and I just sit and chill.
Hydration.
I love hydration. And sometimes, bro, I get people that more often than not, people will come up to me and say, hey, it's not even for anything. It's just I fuck with your content, or thank you for what you're doing for the scene. That means so much to me. I'm sure same with you. It's that means a lot. Because we're outsiders. We're not music, artists. We're not musicians. We don't create it. So for us, it's to have that is so amazing. In so many different ways to be able to feel as though you've been included in this community when, you know, nobody had to include us,
Right.
but they have. They've embraced
Right.
our shows, and you know, I just love that. It's been a blessing. So
It's very humbling.
It really
Very
is.
humbling.
It really is.
And
so I appreciate anybody that's ever followed us, come on the show, given us a like, has said hi to me in person, commented on any of it, any of the support anybody from the scene has given to myself and the platform,
Right.
and our brand new studio. Like I'm just so blessed.
Right.
I can't even describe it
And
better
what's,
in words.
you know, in my case, you know, I'm from the North End, so that is in Boston. But for some reason, the music never like reached there. Or it was like, and I've also said this too, like once I started the platform, it all just came forward.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, I guess, you know, that's based on people you follow, you know, who you're connecting with. But once you tap in to the scene, it expands your worldview.
100%.
So, you know, me being from the North End, I kind of got into Boston music in 2017 due to the late great Hefe Replay, who a lot of my boys, you know, or at least two of them would send me, you know, his tracks and was like, you know, we just dove into this dude's discography. It's fucking awesome. And then, you know, from there,
His music was great.
Absolutely. From
really
there,
was.
it's Cousin Stiz. Then it's Millie's. And then, you know, I don't like to tear people. Then you take a look back, and it's the C4s, the Suriels, the Exit Fames, the guys who are on their, guys and girls, I should say, shout out to all the ladies in the scene,
Yeah.
who are on their way to, you know, this superstardom stage that it's like, wow.
Those are the people,
This
though,
is-
bro.
right.
Those are the ones. Like I'm not. And again, I love Millie's music and Michael Christmas, Joyner Lucas, Cousin Stiz. Like those are all pillars of Massachusetts music. Coy Leray, like Bia, right? The people that make Massachusetts music have kind of put it on the map a bit. However, though, it's the people that are to the ground, have their ears to the ground, and that are here and that are constantly just like, you know, giving back to this community in even the smallest of ways that they can. Those are the people that like really kind of are the heart and like the engine.
Right.
The people that are still
That's
here
very
trying
well-
to make it out,
very
right?
well
Or
put
even, or I'm seeing now, it's like a lot of people are trying to stay and like build infrastructure. Like guys,
And I
guys
think
like enjoy the
that's-
thrill.
I think that's, yeah, especially shout out to them because what they're doing is absolutely incredible. And that's why I'm glad you guys are here, well, because this is part of the infrastructure.
Thank you.
And I think that's been a big criticism of the scene is that there's not enough spaces
Mm-hmm.
to, you know, either perform or make your music be heard. That's why a lot of them move to, you know, New York, Atlanta, LA. And that, you know, that's no sweat on them. You know, Terminology was just talking about
I don't blame anybody that does
New
that.
York. There's every night of the week, there's a show at a different big venue.
100%.
And it's like, yeah, that's where you should be.
It's New York.
That's what exactly.
New
It's the
York.
mecca of art and entertainment. So
100%.
you might as well go there. But
100%.
I firmly, I firmly believe that we're well on our way to getting to that point.
Yeah.
Where we can have an infrastructure, and you know, people will show up and show out, and as such like that.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that you are contributing to the scene currently, not just with Turntable Teachers, there's a certain album coming out next year. An album that is about, what, 2 years in the making now, I'd say?
I think more. I think it would be close to 3 now.
Wow.
If you want to include the point in time in which I had the idea.
It's the Masterclass album with the MA is capitalized.
Yeah.
It's only Massachusetts artists, producers, mixers, everything. It's more Massachusetts than Dunkin' Donuts. You know what I mean?
I appreciate that.
But so how did that idea spawn, and you know, how is the road from the starting point to where you are now?
It's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, but it's been the most, I think, or I should say, I think it will be one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life. And I'm just so excited that I've even had the possibility to do it. It started out, believe it or not, I was during the pandemic, was trying to find different ways to like differentiate our content. And one of the things that I wanted to have, I started having some different producers come on the podcast. And I had a couple of producers come on and do beat tutorials. So what I would do is I'd have them, you know, share their screen, and they would, and I'd screen record the whole thing, and they would sort of just walk me. I'm like, because I don't know how to produce. So I'm like, you know, I'm your little test dummy, right? I'm your guinea pig. Talk to me like I'm 5. How do you make a beat? And not everybody makes a beat the same. So the idea was that like I'd get different producers on, and like maybe, I don't know, we're Turntable Teachers. Whereas I would like to think, or I'd like to hope that I'm throwing in education as much as I can, just having my teaching background. As much as it is a music platform, I want it to also be an educational platform in that sense as well. So from that standpoint, come on, teach it people about how you make a beat. Like, how do you chop a sample? How do you EQ a drum? Like, all these different things, right? And so I got to learn quite a bit from sitting in on these sessions. And then what I realized afterwards is the beats that they were making were actually super dope. So I want a big shout out to B-Leafs, Jordan Never Died, and John Glass. Those are the three people. Those are the three people that I did the beat tutorial with.
That's awesome.
And I walked away from it going, man, these beats are fucking crazy. And what I realized as well, the other thing I realized is that, okay, like maybe we could do something with these beats. Like, that could be kind of interesting. So I reached out to all three of them, and I want to give a big shout out to my buddy Sam, who's one of my best friends. I love him to death. He's my college roommate. And he was helping me out a lot during the pandemic, wanted to, take on some editing. So he was for a long time, and, since is not really, working as much on the platform because he's got a different job and, things change, but, still a lot of love there. But he gave me so many good ideas. And then he said, he was the one that was actually like, well, what if you do like a beat tape? I was like, that's a good idea. So then I started reaching out to some different producers that maybe would want to do a beat tape. But then the open verse challenges on TikTok started becoming a thing.
Oh yeah, like that was a big thing, way big thing during.
It was a lot of artists would be like, "Hey, hop on my beat."
Those. Wow,
bro, it just kind of clicked. I was like, "Wait, what if
the light bulb you have in your logo went off right above your head?" It
went so off. I was like, "What if we did an open verse, open hook challenge on these?" I had 5 beats at the time. We'd done these 5 beats. Then Sam's going, "Why does he need to stop at 5?"
That's right.
And so I said, okay. So I started reaching out to as many producers as I possibly could. Ones that I had good rapport with, ones that I didn't even know. Cold DM, Arc being one of them. I never met Arc, don't know Arc. I wrote up this pitch, I sent it to them, and I'm telling you, literally almost every producer I asked thought it was like a great idea. Not only said yes, but was like, this is a phenomenal idea. I want to be a part of this.
Yeah.
Here's a beat, or here's a group of beats. Choose what you want to do with them. Or choose one you want to do. So like,
that's incredible.
Yeah. So I collected the beats. Zafir and Cam were big help in helping me chop them up. So I chopped up like, just enough for a hook and a verse on each beat. I got all the marketing materials done. I got, headshots or like press photos of each producer. Write-ups of each of them. I wanted to give them their shine, shout them out for being a part of this, but also like really make it a build community thing. And that was really the inception of it, truthfully. And without those 20 producers, it
doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen,
right,
man. I mean, I know I had the idea, but like, and they tell me all the time, they're like, so many of them are like, you got to give yourself more credit. And while I appreciate that, no, these are the people that helped me get to this point.
Humble man.
To make these beats. They're the ones that made the beats. So that was the initial stage of the process. And we wanted to flip it. The idea was to give the producers their shine and give them, because I feel like a lot of times it's the artists searching out which producer, fits my vibe. Flip it.
Right.
Producers figuring out which artist do I want to be on my songs. Mm-hmm. So I'm ecstatic about it.
So you mentioned there's 20. How many producers are on this?
20.
20. How many artists?
42.
Whoa. How many tracks?
20.
Wow.
Well, it's going to be longer because we got a couple interludes, which
right.
I will keep hush-hush now.
Yeah, I like that. But that's all I want you to give away for the album, because I want it to be, you're gonna surprise a lot of people with how it's coming along and stuff like that. So how many entries did you get for the open mic challenge?
100 in... It's kind of fucked up that I still know these numbers. I think it was like 152.
Holy shit.
150 something.
You had to go through all of those.
So hold on though. The cool part about I had to go through all of them.
Yeah.
But that was the cool part for me.
Yeah.
I loved that shit.
No,
Are you
absolutely,
kidding me?
yeah.
Each producer though had a folder. So I, again, I'm type A, bro. I'm a teacher. So like I organized this shit. I had so much pre-thought before I even announced it. I had all the folders already set up before we even got submissions.
Right.
So I only shared the folder specifically with each producer. So let's say you had 8 submissions on your beat. You only had to listen to 8 submissions. You didn't have to listen to a whole 152.
Okay.
So each producer got to choose from their beat. And my favorite part of what we did that I'm most proud of is we kept the beats blind.
Yes.
So even though we, utilize the producers, obviously from a marketing standpoint to say, this is what we're doing. This is what we've all come together to try to accomplish. Excuse me. And this is, who they are and what they've done in their career. But I kept the name, give the beat a name, but we're not suggesting who's on which beat. And what I wanted to do is to keep that pure to the music. As an artist, go through these songs, these beats, submit to as many as you want, but submit to the ones that you actually like and that you feel something from, because that's when the best music's going to be made. Not because you want to be on a John Glass beat,
right?
Not because you want to be on an Archetype beat,
right? And
not because you want to be on a Rilla Force beat. Right? Pick the beat that you really like. And I would love how some people would try to be like, oh, that totally was John Glass, or that totally was Rilla. And I'd be like, you might be right. You might be wrong. Yeah. Most people were wrong, believe it or not. The only people got a lot right was Rilla, but I think
it's all a mystery. Right.
Yeah. And so that was the coolest part for me.
That's awesome.
When during the process was people like not sure of who did which beat. But the cool part about that too was also that I have producers on here that don't really have a lot of music out, or just kind of getting their start. I have a former student on this album that I didn't know even produced.
Whoa!
I was in the middle. Yeah,
That's awesome.
It was his senior year. I was in the middle of collecting beats. He was in one of my study halls, and I was like, Marvin, he had his headphones on. So I'm like, oh, what are you listening to? He's like, oh, I'm actually producing. I'm like, you produce? Like, can I listen to your beats?
Yeah.
And so I listened to them. Dude, they're fucking dope. Dude, the song that's being mixed as we speak in the other room that you were listening to earlier, that's his beat.
Whoa. That's awesome.
It's crazy. So then I broached the subject with him. I'm like, he has no music out, right? He doesn't know any of this stuff. And I'm like, was this something you'd be interested in to get yourself out there? And yeah, so like, and imagine like being him, knowing nobody from the scene, knowing no other artists, making these incredible beats from scratch, and then someone like XL the Beast, who is a staple in Massachusetts music.
If you know, you know.
Saying that beat's dope, I want to be in that beat. And I don't think he understands the level of, because he doesn't really know who XL the Beast is until now. So it's like cool for him to be like, oh, this dude's a legend and he liked my beat. Like, dude, that's been the coolest part for me. It's like, awesome. And then the other piece of it too is once we start getting into the rooms to make these songs, like some magic was happening, bro. Magic was happening.
And I think, we talked about earlier about, having the scene come together. I think this album's going to be that. It's going to be like
that was the hope. That was the hope.
Literally like a game changer because, from the first time you announced it, everybody was behind it. I don't even think one person hated it because you really can't. Not to, you can hate a lot of things. I just don't think this concept you could really hate on because of what it gives and what it brings. But, and you're taking your time with it as well because obviously it's a lot of work, over 42 artists with 20 songs and 20 producers, that's the good thing is you're making it right.
Exactly.
Exactly. You're going to make it masterful.
That was the point, man. I wanted to do it right. I didn't want to do it fast.
Right.
And in a perfect world, I really wanted it out this year, if I'm being completely honest. It just, life gets in the way, scheduling, conflicts. Like most of the songs we were able to record in person. Some of them we had to just kind of, unfortunately, just given where some people live, we had to do them more, remotely, which is fine. To be honest with you, I think one of the strongest songs that actually was created remotely.
Wow.
But one more thing I'll say on this that I really found amazing, two things actually, one of which I care more about, is getting these people in the rooms that didn't know each other before and creating relationships.
Amen to that.
Lib and Julian Mendoza were one of the first sessions we ever did at the Record Co. right before we opened here. And they didn't know each other before. They met throughout this process. Lib is now Julian's engineer, and Julian is now Lib's publicist.
Whoa.
They are like best friends.
Whoa.
And it's because of Masterclass.
That's fucking awesome.
Taina Rentis came in here with Sir Rowley. They hit it off so well. She loved his beats so well. They're apparently, maybe I'm spoiling this, but they're supposedly working on an EP together. Wow. So this was the whole purpose of it. So regardless of what the album does when it actually drops, if it doesn't do well, whatever, I don't care about that as much. What I care about is the fact that people like you said, it kind of started to create some infrastructure. And then, dude, I got comfortable.
That's so awesome. Listen to that.
It's incredible. And I got comfortable. That was the cool part. For people to ask my opinion and for me to almost feel empowered to a lot of these songs, I helped arrange them.
Yeah.
Like I gave the suggestion on how it should be arranged, and the producer or the artist, the experts of this whole thing would be like, that was a great choice. So it like validated it for me of like, wow, like as the quote unquote executive producer of this thing, like I felt so validated hearing those things.
Right.
So
you could almost release like a documentary about like
Julian Mendoza wants to do that. It's something
I was going to say
it's something
like,
that we're in the works trying to do.
Because just like the whole process and how many people it brought together, it's like a lot more people should just see that, because it proves that, you know, it's obviously wasn't a one-man effort, but, you know, the idea spawned, and now it's like the tree. It's like now all these branches have grown on this tree, and have you know, bloomed into these beautiful friendships and, you know, relationships, working relationships. It's gonna like set a precedent, you know, for years to come. So
it's been a dream come true.
Next year, keep your eyes peeled, because
Please.
I'm telling you, this album will change lives. And speaking on, you know, Lib and Julian Mendoza, you know, I followed them because of you, and, you know, the way they interact, I was like, oh, these dudes have been friends for like ever.
A year.
So hearing that, it's like, wow. Like,
they met for the first time at Record Co. in our section.
That's so awesome, man. And I do feel that sense of validation as well, you know, because the point of the pod, and, you know, the original point, but it still is the point, is to bring, you know, the artist friends together. It's, you know, who can work with what. And shout out to Jeff Porter, Dave Ryan, and Neek Rose. That was the first incarnation of that. So, you know, when I always see them, you know, working together, if I always see them, you know, they're on one of my favorite tracks, Flow Machines. And, you know, no, to spoil alert, they got a part 2 coming soon. But
a lot of spoilers in this episode.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just, you know, it really is. It's not, it doesn't even come from a place of selfishness either. It's more just like, wow, you know, I did do that. Yeah.
You're proud of yourself.
Exactly.
Bro. There's nothing wrong with being proud of yourself.
Right. You're absolutely proud of yourself.
Yeah.
But
you're not like, yo, I made that joint, bro.
I made
like,
that
shit.
Fuck? Yeah.
No,
I'm Suge Knight. I made y'all.
No, you helped to create something that's now living in the world, and you like sparked a relationship between people. Like, it's the coolest shit ever, man. Like, if I hope and pray that like Lib and Julian are friends forever, and like to know that they're gonna be like best friends forever off of a project that like I had an idea about. Like, that's cool. That's so fucking cool. Like,
besties.
This album could have 500 million streams. I don't even know if that's a number. Actually, no, it totally is.
It totally is.
It totally is. Sorry, I'm bad
numbers
with numbers.
aren't infinite. Remember that.
This album could get 500 million streams, and that would mean more to me. The fact that they are gonna have a long lasting friendship. Like, that's that, dude. You can't put a price or a number on that.
No, absolutely not. And so changing subjects now.
Yeah, let's do it.
If that's that's what you know about Turntable Teachers and stuff like that. Like I said, listen to that masterclass album. You mentioned multiple times you are a teacher.
I am.
Firstly, how long have you been teaching for?
8 years.
Wow, holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay,
years.
that's wow. I don't know why I thought it was a lot less than that, but yeah, it's 8 years.
8 years, yeah.
So, in America currently, you know,
I'm so glad you're asking us.
Teachers aren't being paid well. They're dealing with a lot of bullshit. You know, it seems like every day on Twitter, Instagram, you see a misbehaving kid either fighting a teacher, you know, throwing something at them, or just general, you know, just misbehaving and stuff like that. And, you know, we were in high school. We saw it. We definitely saw it. We didn't do it, but we definitely saw it.
Yep.
So with everything that teachers are facing today, you know, how do you manage that, and especially being underpaid and, you know, funding supplies for your own classroom and stuff like that?
As a high school teacher, so in terms of the funding of supplies, like, I don't have as much of an issue with that. Like, I want to definitely shed some light on the elementary teachers, because they're the ones that have to deal with that a lot more,
right?
Given the fact
that
they're
teaching younger children.
It's that, but so I don't have to worry too much about supplies, in the sense of, like, if I have index cards, sticky notes, like extra pens in my desk, and like they each, like, I'm at a school where like they all have laptops, and like whatever, it's good things that come from that, and maybe not so good.
Right.
But I can get by on very minimal supplies that I don't really need to give. Like elementary school teachers, though, they need a classroom library. They need colored pencils, markers, pens and pencils, all these different charts, decorations, props, even like different things to use in math, like different
those like counting bears,
counting
and stuff like that.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. There's a word for it. It's kind of escaping me right now. But so my girlfriend is a first grade teacher.
Oh.
And I see this, so I see it firsthand from her, and like she kind of gets it, the high school side of it from me, and her school will give her like $100 per year on her classroom, and it's mind-blowing to think, especially in this economy, that $100 is going to get you anywhere.
No, absolutely not.
To pay for things that you need for a classroom.
That maybe gets you a quarter of what you actually probably
I don't even think
for.
it gives you that. It's
right.
like it's kind of crazy. So the stuff, I mean, dude, she's constantly like working at home from home of like, making, and then you see all these slideshows she has. They're all colorful and beautiful and eye-catching because like you said, you have to hold their attention to the kids. So elementary teachers 1000% have it harder. Any high school teacher that tells you that they have it harder, they're lying to you. They don't. So I will say that. And I that's not even that subjective. So whatever, fight me in the comments if you want.
Don't say that, but yes.
Exactly. But to answer more of your question directly, as a high school teacher, yeah, it's tough. I growing up, I won't get into too much of it, but I grew up in a suburb, but I wouldn't say we had the bare minimum, but we didn't have enough money to go on, expensive vacations. I didn't have enough money to like buy extras, if that makes sense. Like my mom didn't have enough money to buy me a car. Like when all my other friends are being bought cars or given cars
Stuff
and things,
like
different
that,
things like that, I'm out there working for, to earn money in order to buy my own car. And I did that. I bought my own car. And like, so there's like that. And I kind of came from I wouldn't say unstable, but a situation that was, on the fritz of potentially being unstable. So I didn't want that for my life. It's funny. I wanted to do videography so badly.
Yeah.
So badly.
Well, I've seen your skills with that Eshan freestyle.
Thank you, man.
You know what I mean? Go
Yeah.
peep that too on our YouTube.
Yeah, thank you, bro.
Anyways.
I want to do videography. And it's so weird how it's all kind of coming full circle now because like I'm back doing videography on the side.
Right.
Like I'm editing video podcasts and music videos and freestyles and like all these different things. But at the time I wanted to do something that was a little bit more, I thought would be, stable income, salary, all that stuff. And I'm kind of glad I went the route I did, weirdly enough, because it taught me a lot. It's even though I'm not making, as much money as I would maybe like to, there is a large sense of like reward in doing this job. So her name's Kim. She's one of my first students I ever had. This girl has an unbelievable voice on her, and she's been struggling over the last few years to have enough confidence to get herself recording. When we opened the studio, weirdly enough, we got back in touch. She's like, 22, 23 now, however old she is. And she like is a frequent collaborator of Zafir and Camps now. She's in here all the time, and she's, this is a safe space for her. She can come in here. She can write. She can record. She's around. Zafir and Cam have taken her under their wing. Like without me teaching, I never would have. I mean, I impacted her enough for her to remember me and want to like reach out to me when we were both adults. But for me to now impact her in her adult life, like again, those are like the priceless things that like,
Amen. Amen to that.
It's
the butterfly effect, really, at the end of the day, because. Sometimes as a person, whatever creative journey you're on or even a professional journey, you sit back and you think, what if I didn't start? I think that sometimes like, what if say that was never a thing? Where would the chips fall? Where would everything just lay? And, not to humble myself a little bit, but, we're not a big podcast by any means yet, but it's just, if I didn't meet you, if I didn't meet, like meeting Mike Sanchez, it's like the domino effect. Yeah, it's just and then it gets to here.
Intertwines.
But and going back to teaching, and recently I did see a video of just this teacher just lose it on some kid just because he's like, he's just tired of being disrespected and stuff like that. So do you think that kind of starts with like the parenting, or is it more of like what kids are given so much nowadays? Because us growing up in elementary, we didn't have all these iPhones, iPads, we were literally just we were having flip phones if we even had a phone.
For sure.
I think I got my first phone in like 6th grade. and it was this little like slide up thing that all I did was either text my mom or text one of my friends.
Seriously.
That was it. So, what's going on nowadays with, the kids in the classrooms and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, it's also a complicated answer. There's a lot of different factors, I think. One of the things I think is, I think in some regard, parenting has changed. It's a bit less of, you have certain helicopter parents that are, kind of, hovering around their kids, necessarily trying to like nitpick every little thing that they do. You have then the other end of it where parents aren't as involved when they probably should be more involved. So you have parents that should be less involved, parents that should be more involved. I think a lot of it, like you said, is the technology piece, I think has played a huge factor in it. I think that I'm seeing a lot as the years go. I see a lot of kids having a harder time interacting in person. They're much more willing to interact online. Put a screen in front of them, they're good.
And form more like parasocial relationships. I feel like.
And it's strange.
Yeah.
It's strange. The disrespect thing, I don't know where that comes from. I'm witnessing that a lot more, this year. I'm going to choose my words carefully. I'm witnessing that a lot more this year for whatever reason. I don't know if it's the group of kids. I don't know if it's just, like you said, the generations kind of just changing, or maybe I'm just getting older and I'm a little less in touch. Maybe it was a little bit easier to connect with the kids when I was younger. Not that I'm old, but, it's a lot of different factors. Then I think it's the accountability piece is huge, right? I think, it's tough to incentivize teachers to hold kids after school or, punish kids and go further when they're not really backed up by administration. Or you have these instances where, there's this big problem and you reach out to the parent and they're not really receptive of it. It doesn't happen all the time. I'm not suggesting that. There's plenty of parents that hold their kids accountable. So I'm not going to sit here and go that far. Right. But you're seeing it a lot more. Like, it's gone to the point, there's a really interesting meme. I'll try to find it and put it here. If I don't find it,
insert right here.
If it's not here, I didn't find it. So sorry.
It'll be on the reels.
But there's this meme of like back in the 1970s, or maybe it's even the 60s, where you have the kid sitting in the chair and the parents and the teacher are yelling at the kid. It's like a cartoon. Yeah. And they're yelling at the kid, and then they flip it to like 2010 or 2020. And the teacher's sitting in the chair and the parent and the kid are yelling at the teacher. I don't know where it flipped, but there's this idea sometimes with certain parents. It's like, not my kid. My kid would have never done that. It's like, well, they did. They did. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Yeah. They did. And again, there are some great parents. Like, I'm not going to sit here and suggest that that's the norm, but it's becoming more frequent, and it's scary because these kids are like, 90% of the shit you learn in school doesn't really even fucking matter. Sorry. It just doesn't.
No, go off, man.
It doesn't. But
you're on the front lines, not me.
The skills that you learn in school, the discipline, right? The social skills. That's the shit you can take with you. The work ethic, right? It's not about, can Romeo and Juliet affect or impact your life when you're 25.
Yeah. How many times are you going to read Mice and Men per year?
You're never going to, ever again. Trust me. But
I haven't used the Pythagorean theorem since I left, 10th grade.
And you literally never will. But the thing that you can take is, that structure of not only the day, of which going through a work day.
The routine. But
it's also doing things you don't want to do. The thing I get more than anything else, I'm getting a little hot, is
it's all right.
When this year more, in the last maybe year or two more than anything else, is even if I think the activity we're doing is like kind of engaging and kind of fun, like we just can't all be engaging all the time. Right. But, I present what we're going to do and you get the eye roll or the moan and groan. And it's like, really? Yeah. Try doing that to your boss in 10 years. Let me know if you still have a job. So it's like, it's that type of thing, right? It's the apathy of just like, this doesn't matter, so I'm not going to do it. Well, you know what? The routine of maybe doing that does. Or maybe there's a skill in which speaking and listening or collaboration, right? Or presenting or writing. I mean, so many kids can't write properly. Yeah.
And even in working in groups too. Yes. I noticed that the meme of, when that guy in the group doesn't do anything, but you still get an A. But it's just like,
sometimes life's not fair.
Right, exactly.
You're not going to always get the credit that you deserve.
But it's like, that's the point. Fine. You have to learn to at least work cohesively with, if not one of the people, 3 other people.
Exactly. That's the biggest thing, and like the takeaway, like that just drives me nuts a bit with it. And that's, my biggest fear is kids going through these stages of life and getting to the quote unquote real world and not being equipped to handle it.
And I hate to say this, but I think that, I think our generation's fine. I do.
I do too.
I've seen some quips, whatever. I personally think that we have learned thus far what is asked of us and what isn't, and what to do. Because where I work, I get a lot of field trips. I get a lot of school things. I've caught kids stealing more times than I have any homeless drug addict coming here to Faneuil Hall. I have. That's just the truth of the matter is. And I do try to humble them a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't, like I said, I'm not your parent. I'm not going to discipline you,
right.
but like,
right.
It's
Totally.
my business. It is what it is. I have to, quote unquote, protect myself. But it's just that, like, I would have never thought to do that, like, as a kid, or like even even if you're doing it to look cool with your friends, it's like, does that really look cool?
Yeah.
You're just like negatively impact, and we're small business. Like, say what you want about Walmart. If you steal from Walmart, Target, whatever. But like, if you're stealing from like literally like a small business, just a cart, like, come on, dude. Like, not even like just like freak out and swear. They were like, come on.
Yeah,
like,
no,
like,
it's
like, what are you doing?
it's impacting a family. It's
right.
impacting
exactly.
And the other thing too that off your point, like I come from the similar generation as you, where I was a single mom, three boys. I was the oldest of 3 boys, and I don't think there were many times between the 3 of us that we ever really got in trouble in school. We were known as like, a family that, all the teachers liked the Scarfo boys. I think there's a little bit of pity there in some ways, but like, it doesn't matter. It's neither here nor there. It's fine. Right. I appreciate all the teachers that impacted me, in the ways that they did. But if my mom got a call home or an email home from a teacher or the principal or whatever, which again really happened, but if it did, she was never, not my kid, she was looking at me going, what the fuck did you do?
Absolutely. My mom too.
And she didn't have to hear my side yet. And it was just like, why am I getting this phone call right now? This is not acceptable.
Yeah. You shouldn't get a phone call. You shouldn't get an email.
That's what I mean. So like that, I don't know where that dynamic switched. I really don't. But
that's probably the best way of putting it, because like, not that your kids aren't untouchable, but like, they're not angels, dude.
No, and I guess listen, and there was
we're human. We fuck up.
Yeah,
it just
exactly.
It's how you learn from the fuck up.
And teachers are never. I'm not gonna sit here and say teachers are perfect, because they're not. We make mistakes all the time. Like there was one teacher in particular, like my brother going through high school. Like the teacher was kind of weirdly like low key bullying him, and it was kind of fucked up. Wow. So like not in that instance, like he was definitely in the right, but so I'm not gonna sit here and say every teacher's like perfect. There's bad apples in every single industry, right? It's like there's bad cops, there's bad teachers, there's bad, I don't want to say there's bad doctors, but there's doctors that make mistakes. Like it's just human error, and it's also just you're dealing with a very complex species of us that are just we're just complex creatures.
Absolutely.
But yeah, socially is where I really get worried for this upcoming generation. I think the one thing that they are very accepting of each other. Not to say that there's not bullying.
No, but yes, you're right.
But they at least don't really care, like if you're gay or you're trans or you're black or Hispanic or whatever. Like I don't see as much of that type of bullying.
Right.
Really hardly at all. Not saying it doesn't happen, but it's because it certainly does.
All right.
But this is a generation that seems a bit more understanding of those social things, which also just doesn't make sense to me. So it's like, okay, then you see those social issues, but then you're not understanding these other very valuable things as well that we grow. So it feels like there needs to be kind of a meeting of the minds, so to speak.
There needs to be like a midway point where you understand, your classmate is a member of the LGBT community, or is black or is Asian, but you also understand that how you behave socially. No matter like what
you don't roll your eyes at a teacher. Like I would, dude. I would never even thought to roll my eyes at a teacher.
I was like this in class, like literally, it was like.
Or tell a teacher like, yeah, this lesson sucks. Yeah. Like never in a million years would I ever thought to do that. So and
honest to God, it's just they just gotta like detox social media, because it's just because kids today, they aren't stupid, but they are very easily like impressed.
Super impressionable.
So exactly. So if they see like some viral clip on TikTok. Like I remember a few years ago in high schools, they were ripping out sinks and like toilets and stuff. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, thank God I don't got a kid in high school or something like that.
There was this thing where people were putting watermelons in toilets.
What?
And so it was like a thing. Yeah. And like it even happened at our school. And then like, do you understand that like someone has to clean that up?
Right.
Like that's the piece of it. And then the other piece, oh my God, like the trash that gets left behind in my classroom all the time.
Yeah, hygiene.
Are you
hygiene.
kidding me?
You're right. Hygiene. I completely forgot about that.
I always clean up around myself.
Oh,
You're never going to see me leaving a ball. Like if I come over to your house, Pete, or I come into your establishment at your work, I'm not leaving my trash at the table.
Yes.
I'm throwing my trash is making it into the trash can. I'm saying thank you on my way out. And that's it.
You know what? And that's a subject that should be taught, like, you know, maybe, I don't even know when, but at least etiquette. Like, have some etiquette. You know what I mean? It'll take you so far. Like, you know. Seriously. Even if you don't, you know, have, because admittedly, some people just don't have school skills, and that's fine. But as long as you're an etiquette person and, you know how to behave socially and stuff like that, that's what matters.
100%.
So, after talking about, you know, all the problems facing teachers and stuff like that, one may not be a problem for the teachers per se, but at least a problem that's arising within high schoolers and, you know, even college kids. I can attest to this. I'm a little guilty myself. Is AI. Is using, you know, ChatGPT to write papers, to do whatever you want with it. But so you being the teacher, and I'm not sure if you do grade papers or stuff like that.
I teach English, so
yeah. There you go. That's the perfect. That is the perfect subject for AI. You know, how are you, you know, are you worried that, like, you know, your job isn't going to get replaced, but the students just aren't going to learn anything?
I'm a little worried that we're going to get replaced.
Really?
I genuinely do. Maybe not in my lifetime or our lifetime, but I think it's coming, man. And I think because you saw this during the pandemic, that the two industries that got hit, I think, in my opinion, that got the most backlash were teachers and nurses. Or teachers in the medical field.
Like, and not even to get on the, you know, I meant to ask you about the pandemic too, but now that we're on it, it's like, you know, you had, like we said earlier, you had elementary school teachers having kids in front of a screen. It was never going to work. How does this even work? Do you not, like,
it didn't.
Right, exactly. That's the answer to that. Like, do they not know kids? They're so easily distracted that,
I had kids in bed.
Right, exactly.
And the high school kids are like, I'm not getting up for this shit. I probably wouldn't have either, truthfully.
Nowadays, you know, like I said at my work, I see a lot of children, you know, I see kids in carriages just looking at their mom's phone and stuff like that. So I'm like,
that shit drives me fucking
insane.
Bonkers.
That's a question for another day. Like, that drives me so insane.
Shit drives me insane.
But, and then I'm thinking, I'm like, wow.
Engage with your kid. Stop giving them a screen at 1.5. I'm gonna look right into the camera and I say this. Stop giving your 1-year-old child your phone. Right. It's not setting a good precedent. I'm sorry. Don't have the children if you can't engage with them.
Right. That fucks with their mind development.
No shit. I completely agree.
Hell yeah.
Completely agree. But go ahead.
So as I was saying, you know, those young kids are already easily distracted. Yep. They're in front of a you know, Zoom camera. They're gonna think, oh, I'm gonna watch Bluey or something like that. I'm not gonna see, you know, Miss So and So or Mr. So and So try to teach me. So, firstly, before, you know, we get into the AI thing, during the pandemic, you had to do that. You were on Zoom classes.
Yeah, for a couple months, we did, and then the first year we were back, we had Wednesdays were remote days. Nothing got done during those times, but it was like a half day. And you worked from home, and you just like checked in on Wednesdays, and that's how my school did it.
Huh?
So you had kids coming in cohorts. So how they did it was you would have certain kids come in on Monday from the same class, mind you. It was a freaking nightmare, Pete. Yeah. On Mondays and Thursdays, you would have half of your class in. Then Tuesdays and Fridays, you'd have the other half of the class in. And then on Wednesdays, you'd have the whole class together online because they were trying to like divide the number of people that were in the building at one time.
What? Like, at that point, just not even have class, I feel like. Not,
it was insane.
Not, you know, not to insult your job, but like...
No, you're not insulting my job.
Like, that just makes no sense to me.
It was hard. It was hard, and we didn't get nearly enough. I mean, think about that pacing, right? You have to teach that lesson. I have to teach that lesson 4 times. in a week.
We were already talking about, editing and record and hearing ourselves. Imagine doing that over and over and over again.
And then try doing that for 5 different classes. So if you teach the same course, right, which not a lot of people do, but just in theory, let's just suggest this, that you taught, because we teach 5 classes at where I teach. And, let's say you were to teach that class, each of those classes twice a week. Like, it's crazy. So, like, you're teaching the same lesson 10 times.
Right. No, hell no. Hell no.
You're not getting through shit.
No, absolutely.
So it was hard. I'm glad that part of it's over.
Yeah, exactly. And so back to AI, you were saying that you don't think in our lifetime teachers will be replaced, but you do.
I don't think so.
You do see how should I say this, like an unclear future.
I do, because there's a way in which that I see, I think that there's a population of people, I don't think it's that strong, but I do think there's a population of people out there that think us teachers are indoctrinating kids, and that we are a bunch of lefties that are out there trying to teach our kids to be Democrats, and we're teaching them to be transgender and gay and all these other things, which we are accepting of all of those things. Don't get me wrong, but we are not actively teaching those things. So take a walk through school sometime. Don't just walk in. Please don't do that. But schedule a time to come on in if you want to observe what goes on. There is no indoctrination going on, so don't worry for all you people that think that we are impacting kids.
I was going to say, because first of all, you have to go through school to become a teacher. So I don't think they teach you oh, this is how you be gay, or this is that's why
it's not how it's going.
I just can't ever see ever happening. Yes, there's gay, lesbian, transgender teachers, but that's them. That's not what they teach. Their subject is not transgender. That makes no sense. That's not even a subject.
Some colleges though are starting to do I believe they're starting to do almost gender studies and different things like that, which is kind of cool. Yeah. No, I think that's whatever. All the time. Understand it. And that's nothing wrong with that. Right. You're not going to take a gender studies course and then walk out of it and be like, wow, I just got indoctrinated. It's not.
Holy shit, I'm gay now.
It's not. It's not happening. It's not a thing. But anyway, I think there's a population of people out there that feel as though we are either detrimental to the future of kids, or we are useless, and that robots could do a better job. And I think could be a hot take. I think it's coming. I don't know if it's in our lifetime, but this will be archived somewhere, so you can. Right. 100 years from now, if someone's listening.
The Say That page will always be up, so in this episode we'll be on it. Also, our Instagram will still be up, and whoever knows, I'm not sure what clips I'm going to pull from this episode yet, but we are going to highlight, why these teachers could potentially be replaced.
Yeah.
So
but I don't like the AI thing.
Have you encountered it on papers yet?
Yeah, I have.
And is it an immediate failure?
Yeah, it's a plagiarism. It's plagiarism. What's how we're treating it as. And I agree with that. I think you should write your original stuff. I mean, everyone has to. This is what I mean. We're breeding laziness.
Yes.
We're breeding can I tell you a little hot take on being an English teacher?
Go ahead.
You came from the same generation as me. You probably grew up with your English teachers telling you SparkNotes is bad, right?
Yes.
Okay. Here's my take. I don't think SparkNotes is bad. I actually think SparkNotes are a good thing. Here's why. Let's say I read a chapter, okay? I genuinely read the chapter.
Yeah.
I don't understand what the hell it was or what happened in it.
Right.
I like the idea of using the SparkNotes as a supplemental piece of saying, okay, or maybe I didn't fully understand that chapter. Maybe let me just gloss over the SparkNotes just to see where I can fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
I think at best that's AI. I don't understand this topic very well. Give me a quick synopsis rundown, and then I can go about and go research it and do proper research, right? Absolutely. That's the other thing. Kids, they're not, the two things in my class, I don't give a shit if you don't like any of the books in my class. I try my best to make the class, diverse and make it, accessible and make it, engaging in some ways, or bring in different, trying to get out the old books and bring in some of the new. My department's really good at that. That's the one thing I really like about, not the only thing, but that's one thing that I really like about what we do as English teachers, as ELA teachers. But, there's a piece of that where it's you are, again, you're going to have to, the two basic skills you need to have are being a good reader and being a good writer, or even just a passable reader and a passable writer, because reading comprehension is so important, dude. This is the problem in our society, right? This is why you're seeing so much collision between the quote unquote two sides, the two extremes. You're reading the same information and you're interpreting it so much differently.
Absolutely.
And I'm not suggesting that one side is understanding it better than the other, or you don't know how to actually assess a source to even deem it's credible. I literally got in a fight with somebody during a friend of a friend, or a spouse of a friend, over a source that I was like, dude, this is not a credible source.
Yes.
And he was like, yes, it is. And I'm like, it's not though.
Right.
Like, and this is why. Yeah. And I laid it out like, this is why these statistics don't add up when you actually look at the other research from credible sources are out there. But people want to read a headline and not even read the article, or they want to find a sketchy site or a sketchy article or something they read on Instagram and treat it as the gospel.
Right. And
it's not.
It's funny. I just had that conversation yesterday because there was a thing on Twitter as the GTA trailer came out was, first look at the allegedly reported first transgender character in GTA, and they're like source, and he pulls up from Reddit. I'm like, dude,
Reddit's not a source.
Like, let's get real here.
Reddit's
First
not
of all,
a source.
And this is no disrespect to any transgender person. She doesn't look transgender. She's not transgender. She's clearly just a straight Latina woman. So it's like, why weaponize the transgender community just to like enrage somebody, and then you're gonna pull out and say, "Oh, I got it from Reddit." Like, dude, like
because there's people out there that are still uncomfortable with that.
Yeah, and you know what? At this point, I just let people, you know what? If you're gonna look that way. I know where I'm looking, so it's like I can't. And you're clearly too stubborn enough that I'm not gonna convince you otherwise. So it's like, you know what? Just be stubborn. I know what to do. But you're right. We've kind of weaponized legitimate like news sources now.
Absolutely.
To the point where you're right. They're gonna go elsewhere to an unverified report, or they're gonna go to an unverified person and take this guy's thing and boost it up. But realistically, you should just take it with a grain of salt.
Yep.
But yeah, and so you are an English teacher. What books are you teaching, by the way?
So
you teaching Shakespeare? Because that's
not this year.
Okay, because I had to do that.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah. I've taught Shakespeare before. When I taught in Everett, I did a lot of Shakespeare.
Nice.
Or I had that was what they gave me to do.
Right.
So in my sophomore class, we do Lord of the Flies.
Ooh.
Little Fires Everywhere.
I don't know.
It's actually it's a more modern book, not modern, but like recent book.
Yeah.
There's a series out with Reese Witherspoon.
Okay.
That she like produced or whatever. It's on Hulu. Kerry Washington's in it as well. It's solid. I actually, believe it or not, like the book better. And then what else do we do? Boxers and Saints, which is like actually a graphic novel, so like comic book, which is pretty sweet.
Cool.
And then they'll do like Night by Elie Wiesel, which is like I think a really important book. Yeah, Holocaust, obviously.
I think I read that junior year.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly.
Yeah, it's a very.
Now it sounds familiar, right?
It's a very just gut wrenching book. But I like that lesson, or I like that unit, I should say, because I feel like it's important to frame.
Now, have you done Great Gatsby?
When my student teaching, I did. Yeah,
you did. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you do Catcher in the Rye?
I have not.
Wow. Okay. That's because
I read it and I
See, I had to read it, and that was a common one. Huckleberry Finn was a common one too.
Ugh, don't like Huckleberry Finn.
Yeah, I didn't like it either. I mean, it's like not that I didn't like reading. It was like I feel like it would have been better if I just read it by myself and not like, oh, you have to read it.
Well, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
And this is why I do a choice read unit too, because my whole thing with it is like, when I read now, I read books I want to read.
Yes.
So
absolutely.
my goal is like, get rid of some of these older texts, and really our goal, I shouldn't say our goal as a department has been for a number of years. Get rid of some of these texts that aren't really like connecting with the students and try to bring in some of this. Like my students really like Little Fires Everywhere right now. It's what we're reading. They love it. They want to have conversations about it. They want to have way more conversations about it than Lord of the Flies. Awesome. So that means a good thing. It means they're reading it. So, right. Maybe that'll encourage them. There could be a Little Fires Everywhere stan, but like go read a book you actually like, right? So it's like, that's what I mean. Like my job is to allow kids to, or try to have kids like to read, walk away from my class saying, okay, I had some great conversations. I learned a couple of things. I feel like I'm a better reader. I feel like I'm a better writer. I feel like I have a desire to read.
Right.
So at the end of the day, it's really great for you. Reading's great. It's important. I'm not as always great about it, honestly, because I'm constantly reading essays and reading books throughout the day. And then it's like I don't have the stamina to do it when I get home. I'm not as good about it.
Right.
But if you can read like a chapter a night, it's pretty good for you.
Good, right?
It's still just
because
good
at most,
for
what
you.
are they? 7, 8 pages, 10 pages?
Depends.
Maybe?
Yeah, it depends on the book. But yeah. I love like nowadays I'm reading like I just read Dave Grohl from Foo Fighters and Nirvana. His memoir is phenomenal. So good. Reading Rick Rubin's book currently.
Anything Rick Rubin related.
So good.
Really.
The Creative Act. Incredible. What else have I read recently? Recently, what else have I read? I like Stephen King a lot. I like horror.
Oh yeah, you had mentioned you were a big horror fan with the Key episode.
Yeah, I love horror, bro, and I love Stephen King books too.
Do you watch the movies?
Sometimes, not all of them.
Yeah.
I haven't seen many of the recent ones.
Yeah,
but
I didn't see
some old
I've
ones.
seen both It's. I didn't see Pet Sematary.
That was one of the ones I haven't seen either, but it's good.
Yeah.
The Mist. The
Mist is crazy.
That shit used to freak me out.
Hold on, The Mist is crazy. Well, you got into hard things, but The Mist is crazy.
Mist is crazy.
So, to introduce the fairly new segment of our show, Gas, Bass, or Mass and Cass, right? You know, you've
I
heard
know
it many
it.
times. If it's your first time hearing of it, Gas means it's fire. You want to keep it always. Bass, like Brandon Bass, the former Celtic great, mid-range god, but he's just a little mid, right in the middle. Not too bad, not too good, but
Shout out Brandon. Shout out Brandon Bass.
Shout
We
out
love
Brandon
you.
Bass.
We love you, Brandon Bass.
And Mass and Cass is burn it, trash it, get rid of it, it's gone.
Okay.
On the subject of, you're in the teaching classroom, you're being a teacher, for the first Gas, Bass, or Mass and Cass.
Yep.
Standardized testing.
Oh my God.
SATs and MCAS.
Mass and Cass. Get that shit out of here, bro.
Me being the guy who took the both SAT and MCAS maybe a combined like 6 times.
It's stupid.
I can't get over that.
It's literally pointless.
So, and now they're getting rid of it, right?
Well, so a lot of
Like they're slowly getting rid of it, or they're slowly getting rid of it as a requirement.
Yes.
Okay.
They were. Now I'm hearing through the grapevine it's starting to kind of trickle its way back. There's a lot of colleges that are now SAT optional.
Okay.
So you don't need to. You can take the SAT. You just don't need to submit your scores.
Okay.
Which I like.
Yes.
Don't accept a student based on one test.
Right.
I mean,
because my score sucked.
Here's what I'll say: is the pressure of it on kids is really, really detrimental. If you want to make it something that is like valuable, right? Require it to be taken, but do not equate it into the actual acceptance of the student. Just get a feel for where they might be at a certain testing level, and then maybe help them to find classes that maybe fit based on that. But again, like you got to see the bigger, it's the whole picture, right? The bigger parts of that are your transcript, your letters of recommendation, your resume. If you're a high school student listening to this, which I don't know why you would be, but like if you are, make a resume right now. Like that's one thing like I do in I teach this soft skills course called Avid, and one of the things that we do is like I make them write a resume. I used to do it when I taught seniors. That was the first thing we did. You're writing a resume.
That's one of those life skills we were talking about.
I would
earlier.
teach them how to write a cover letter and a resume.
There you go.
Because you're going to need that shit when you are applying for jobs.
Absolutely.
So, but no, standardized testing, get that shit out of here. I think it's absolutely absurd. The MCAS absolutely blows. I don't even care.
Like
Pearson, if anybody here is listening to this, if you want to sponsor this episode, we don't want you to.
Yeah.
We don't want your money.
No.
College board, fuck out of here, because these are corporations, bro. The corporations
absolutely.
that are feeding on and trying to sell you something that isn't that valuable.
Right.
It's just not. I didn't do well in standardized testing. I'm fine.
Like I said,
we're both here.
Right, exactly.
We're both here. I'm fine.
I'm actually currently a graduate student, and I just graduated 4 years, so it's like
I have my master's, bro.
right. I'm almost there.
Like
almost there.
yeah, like
But
I
you're
do
right,
too.
exactly.
Yeah. I'm fine.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm fine.
So, wow, starting off with Mass and Cass.
Mass and
I like
Cass,
that.
1,000%.
I like
I
that.
didn't even have to think about it.
Right, because I had to actually was because I'm thinking I'm like because as I said I don't know if they're still doing it or whatever.
Still doing MCAS, still doing SAT, but it's not fun.
So for the next Gas, Bass, Mass and Cass, iPads being given to high schoolers, and I say that as a former student in high school who was given an iPad as, that's the school iPad. You take home whatever, it's your responsibility. So do you think that, as we were talking about earlier, kids having all this tech and they're acting, a certain way, the school kind of, to mention this segment, gassing it? Or is there more, oh no, you should use it for educational purposes?
I'm going to say Bass. Here's why. Complicated response, but I'll try to keep it short, as sweet as I can. Programming the iPad in a way where you can only use it for educational purposes.
Okay.
So
so no Instagram, Twitter, none of that.
No,
on there.
you can't even get those apps.
Right.
Like the only apps you can get are educational
or even games, because God knows I used it for games
or educational games.
Right.
I think there's some value in the way tech is utilized in education. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I also see some value potentially in giving it to a student and say, this is your responsibility. I like that. Like being responsible for something, right? Teaching them that responsibility. And if you break it, it's on you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if it breaks maybe accidentally, I don't know if you could even I don't know.
No, they buff these things. Like
Yeah.
the cases they have, like they give them in.
Yeah, okay.
They're shatterproof.
Yeah, I'll say Bass because I think they're valuable. I would rather a laptop. I think laptops are better, unless the iPad maybe comes with a keyboard or something. I just think typing on an iPad just doesn't really, I don't think equate.
It's like a bigger phone almost.
Yeah, or taking notes. I don't feel as though that's although they have those apps now where you can actually, if it comes with one of those pens and you can actually write your notes. So there's science out there and studies out there that say when you handwrite your notes, it retain. I don't know what the percentage is, so don't quote me on this, but you actually retain that information better. Right. So I'm gonna say Bass.
Nice.
I'm gonna say Bass.
Nice. Because like I said, I did experience that, and I abused it. Not gonna lie, I used it for games.
Of course you would.
Actually, right?
Anybody would.
That's the thing. You give a mouse a cookie.
Love that book. We have no self-control.
Right. Exactly. So the last in the edition of Gas, Pass, and Mass and Cass, a lot of kids in school, especially in public school, their first meal or only meals of the day come from the cafeteria.
Yep.
So, in your opinion, the state of the cafeteria food right now in America, is it gas? Is it Bass? Is it Mass and Cass?
Depends on what district you're in. So, I will say Bass because...
Well, I should say, how is it in your district?
I don't eat it that often. But from what I hear, probably Bass.
Okay.
I student taught in Natick. Gas, bro. If
There
you're
you go.
any Natick, bro, I'm sure it's still the same, probably better. Gas. It was like a food court. It was it was unbelievable.
Wow.
It was
Yeah.
unbelievable. Now, if you would ask the question about free and reduced lunch, gas.
Gas, absolutely.
Gas. That's important. I think that because it's tough because it's what are we giving these kids in the beginning of the day? Right? So the muffins, the sugar, the cakes, that's not the shit you want to be giving them, right? It's give them
brain food,
a water, a piece of fruit, right?
Right.
Something like that. Eggs, maybe an egg sandwich, something like
delicious.
that. Yeah, imagine you get a bacon, egg, and cheese,
Hell yeah.
at school.
bacon, egg, and cheese.
Yeah, and it was either free or reduced based on your income and stuff, family income. That would be incredible. Funded by the state. I don't know.
Well, speaking of funded by the state, I believe Massachusetts did pass a law that public school food will be paid for by the state. So it will be, I don't know if it's going to be a slow rollout type thing, but I did see on Twitter that the law had passed. So.
That would be great. I mean, I think that there's value in that. It really, I think it helps a lot of families with that. So, because money's tough right now. Right. So if you can get two meals at school for these kids, it'd be probably helpful for a lot of students.
Especially if they stay after school too.
Of course.
Right. When
I was at Everett High, dude, I mean, there would be kids in that building till 10 p.m. I'm not kidding.
Oh, absolutely.
It's
Especially
crazy,
if they had,
especially in the
sports or
city.
something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's so crazy. I will say this too. When I was working in the city versus now working in the suburbs, you couldn't get kids out of your room. You'd have to be I have to go. It's 5 o'clock. I got to go to basketball practice.
Right.
I'm sorry. I got to go coach the game. I got to go. In the suburbs, they just all file out at 2:50. They're just boom or one whatever.
Because
it
their
is.
house is either down the street or it's right next to the school.
Yeah. So many kids that I, taught in Everett, and this happens in every city where they don't go home because maybe they don't have, like you said, they don't have food, or maybe they don't even have heat. So yeah, I mean, dude, school's like a safe place for a lot of these kids. So, that's important. Yeah.
But all right. So that concludes Gas Bass with Master Cass. I appreciate that because my goal with this interview was to highlight Turntable Teachers, but also you as a teacher itself.
Thank you. No, I appreciate those questions.
Because both Turntable and Teachers are a big part of your life, both those words.
For sure.
And also, you had mentioned earlier, you're a North Shore guy.
I am a North Shore guy.
You're a North Shore, like myself.
I am a North Shore guy.
Being a North Shore guy, you love Kowloons, right?
I love the Kowloon.
Gotta love the Kowloon.
I love the Kowloon.
What the hell has been up with there recently in the last month?
What happened?
There's been a big bar fight.
Really?
There's like 12, I think 4 people got arrested, but like 12 people were just involved. Some lady took a bottle, smashed it over there, but you know what the problem was? It was one of those pre-things, the Thanksgiving Eve things. So, maybe some beefs come together and then shit happens. But yeah, 12 people got arrested, I think. Maybe it was 4, whatever, but people did go to jail. Then, last week, this dude dies.
What?
After an accidental stabbing in the parking lot.
At Kowloon?
At Kowloon, yes.
Fuck, I don't want to go to Kowloon now.
Right.
Exactly. You just ruined Kowloon.
No,
for
right.
me,
That's
bro.
what I'm saying. Like, it already came a few years ago. There were rumors of it shutting down or the land being sold. But it was like, I hope this shit don't fuck it up. But with the thing with the stabbing was,
I think that was a marketing play.
Right.
I hate to say.
Hey, who knows?
I think it was a marketing play.
It's a smart one either way.
Because they're like, we're closing, and then they got super busy again. Like, just kidding, we're not closing.
Right. Exactly.
But I'm not complaining. I love the Kowloon.
The thing with the stabbing was, I guess the guy had it on a lanyard, and he I don't know where he cut himself, but he hit it himself, or maybe he fell on it, type of thing.
What the fuck?
But yeah, it's what's going on with the Kowloon, man?
This is the first time hearing of it. Clearly, I'm out of the loop. Is it a Kowloon problem or is it a people problem?
It's definitely a people problem.
Is it a people problem or is it a Kowloon problem?
It's happening at the Kowloon. If it happened across the road at the Hooters, all right, cool, shut down the Hooters. I don't give a fuck. But save the Kowloon, man. God damn. Hashtag save Kowloon.
Hashtag save Kowloon.
Hashtag
save Kowloon. I love the Kowloon.
Right.
It's great.
The Celtics been on a roll, huh?
Celtics are great. One thing on that real quick, though. That was not, for a long time, that was not the best Chinese food you could get on Route 1.
Where was it?
Out of Asia. You ever go there?
Yes, dude.
Which they're putting they're putting an Indian place in there now, which I'm really excited about because I love Indian food. But out of Asia, I missed out.
Fucking awesome.
Gas.
That is gas. That's in the gas hall of fame.
Gas.
That is in the gas hall of fame. Oh my god, I have never heard anybody talk about Out of Asia.
Dude, Out of Asia is incredible, bro. I know. Yeah, I figured you're.
Hell yeah. That used to be my Chinese spot.
Hell yeah. For the first 5-6 years of my life, I lived in Saugus.
Oh, okay. That's what's up. Yeah. Word.
That's my shit, bro.
But yeah, dude, I'm so happy you mentioned Out of Asia.
Out of Asia.
Oh my god.
R.I.P.
I used to be in love with the fish tank.
Oh my god, the fish tank,
yes,
bro.
They had the catfish in there and stuff like that. Yes.
Great fish tank.
Oh my god.
God, we love Out of Asia.
But yeah. So the Celtics have been on a roll, got bounced from the in-season tournament. Me personally, I don't think that season tournament matters. I mean, I guess it's cool to make the games matter. Yeah.
It's been fun to watch.
I actually went to the Bulls game.
I was there too.
Oh, where Millie's at the halftime.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, really? Holy shit.
I was there.
People were there.
I was there.
Yeah. They get packed now, the Celtics games.
Oh my god.
They pack them out. I mean, obviously it depends on if they're good or not. Yeah, but
for that in-season tournament,
typical
exactly.
versus a terrible Bulls team.
Yeah, people Tuesday night against the Bulls
30. But
the Bulls need to clear house.
I am so impressed how they move the ball and shoot threes. They're like a mini Warriors team.
They're fun to watch.
It's so fun to watch. On the subject of that game, though, what do you think of the Millie's halftime performance? It's a free. Hey, listen,
I'm so upset you asked me this because it's gonna. I can't lie.
I can't lie either.
I didn't think it was that great.
I didn't think it was either, and
again, no, just I mean, I love Millie's.
Absolutely. I want Millie's to succeed as much as possible.
He felt like he mailed it in. I will say this though, they have a good relationship, the Celtics and Millie's. I think he was more or less trying to promote his album than he was to give a good halftime performance. Also though, halftime is and the Garden. I'll give him these excuses. The Garden, terrible acoustics.
Yeah, Mike Sanchez said that too. He was like,
awful.
It's just not. It's not a Millie's venue.
It's not a Millie's venue at all.
I couldn't even hear him. Honestly.
I couldn't hear him either.
I was sitting Loge.
I was in Loge too.
Yeah,
dude, we must have been freaking so close to each other.
Right.
I was in Loge. I could barely hear him. It was just the backing track that I could hear more the
vocals.
Frequently. Yeah, man. I I didn't think it was that great.
Yeah,
I think he was promoting his album, which is fine.
Absolutely.
And again, halftime is like a
And if
time
you-
where people get up to like go get concessions and
Right.
they're not really paying attention.
Right.
So I think like it's tough to get the crowd like, you know, moving. So maybe like that played a factor in it. But
I
nah,
think the girl he
I
brought
wasn't
out
too
too.
impressed.
I think she looked nervous. I mean, gorgeous girl, but I just think she looked nervous a little bit, and like she was doing the backing vocals thing, and it was
Yeah.
you could tell it was kind of messing her up a little bit. So that's why I was like, oh man, I
Yeah.
wanted that to be good for you. But like I said, you put them in the House of Blues, it's a banger show. You know
Oh,
what
God,
I mean?
yeah.
You put
No,
him in
no
any of those venues, it's an absolute banger
No,
show.
it's-
It's just but to his credit, if the Celtics offer you a freaking halftime performance, you take it any day of the week.
of course,
Right.
It's not changing his day to day
course.
whatsoever. Well, maybe helping him promote his album is probably a positive, more than a positive.
Oh, absolutely.
Than anything else, but
And
nah, I mean,
to-
I don't hold it against him. Trust me.
And to now, we're in the new segment that we introduced in the last episode, Beantown Banter. Where, you know, we're going to talk about stuff that's, you know, maybe irritating about the city of Boston, maybe nice about the city of Boston.
Go for
but
it.
this one's going to be a little irritating. So, Boston's got a bad reputation for a couple things. It's the high rent prices, right?
Yep.
It's virtually impossible to live there unless you're in a big corporate job, and even still, you're probably breaking the bank. And the drivers. Drivers are not good. That's really Massachusetts' problem.
literally
But
the
in
worst.
Boston in particular, drivers are not good.
I almost got T-boned twice in back to back. Like
Jesus.
I'm driving, they come out, almost T-bone me. I go around other side
God damn.
of a side street. Come out. I literally was like
Yeah, like
swerving around.
that. It's either that or they're stirring
Felt
themselves.
like I was in GTA.
Right, they're stirring themselves because trucks apparently think you can drive on Sturrow Drive. Even in the Sumner Tunnel, trucks think you can drive in there. You can't.
Yo, my
But-
biggest pet peeve ever is traffic.
It's the worst.
I would rather do so many different things.
I had to
than
sit in an
traffic.
Uber in traffic like 2 weeks ago, and I wanted to just get out
Fuck
and
it.
walk.
Fuck it.
Right.
I've done that so many times.
Right.
I'm like, you just let me out here. I'll walk the rest.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's fine.
But out of respect, because I was going to Revere, so I was like, I had to sit in. I'm like, oh. But okay.
But go ahead.
High
I'm sorry.
rent prices, driving in traffic.
Yep.
Other than that, what's one thing you hate about Boston?
Hate about Boston? Oh, that's a good question. What do I hate about Boston? Traffic, yeah. Rent prices, of course. I'm probably gonna think of something like later, off air, and I'm gonna text you it
All right.
later.
'Cause-
A better, but the one thing that I probably don't love, to be honest, is our bar. Well, I don't hit the bars as much anymore because I'm
But-
just not that, I'm
Right.
just not there anymore. Just is what it is. I'm not a single guy on
Yeah.
the prowl.
What's up, ladies?
It's not me anymore.
You know
no
who my
doubt
dad
about it.
is? Right? You get that type of thing, especially
Brian
around Harvard or
Scalabrine?
something.
No,
Right.
who's it? Not Brian Scalabrine.
Aaron Baines.
Aaron Baines. That's
You know what I'm
right.
saying?
Aaron Baines.
Could pass for both. But anyways.
The way we run our bars, in other cities I've been in, New Orleans, Nashville, Austin, Texas,
NYC.
you can just kind of walk in, walk out. You're not waiting in a line. Like, yo, you couldn't pay me to sit in line at like West End Johnny's
No,
right now.
absolutely
Like,
not.
and especially in this, like when I was
Absolutely
23, 24, bro,
Yeah.
I'd sit in line in this weather for fucking West End Johnny's
no.
or like South Boston, right? Capo.
Right.
Like, yo, now at
no.
30 years old, I'll be 30 this weekend. Yo,
Hey.
yeah. Sorry, let's slip that in.
Happy birthday bragging there. Yeah.
Thanks, brother. Yeah, my 20s are gone. Yeah, I won't do it.
No,
I won't do
absolutely not.
it. So, but like those other cities that I mentioned, it's great. You can walk into a bar, get a drink. If you don't want to be there any longer, you walk out, go to the next one.
Exactly.
It's like, and like you don't have to pay a cover. Like you have to wait in a line. Like,
What are
it's
they?
nice.
I'll close at like 1 a.m. around here.
Yeah,
2
I mean,
a.m.
other
the
places
max.
go to 4. I mean, again,
Right.
if you like the nightlife like that,
Exactly.
cool, but-
Yeah. Listen, I can't. I'm 26. I can't do that anymore. After college, it was like I just somehow the powers just left my body. I'm yawning at midnight. I'm like, holy hell, what a fall from grace.
Oh, it's quite
But-
a fall from grace.
If I have to pick one thing I hate, and I mean this in the nicest way possible, at least I hope it comes off that way, the yuppies. I'm sorry, but if you're not from Boston, do not pretend to like you are. Because there's one thing that yuppies and everyone out of town love, and it is a Boston accent. I see all the TikToks of like dudes, use people from here using. I'm like, oh my god, you're like a circus animal. like sorry, not sorry, but like they're like, oh, the Boston accent's so funny. It's like, oh, it's like fuck you, dude. What the fuck?
Fuck you, dude.
But like just these, I seen a thing called the Southie Line Girls, and they just document all the lines of Boston. I'm like, oh, what is this?
I mean, maybe because I'm not from Boston, that doesn't bother me that much. But because you are, probably why.
I mean,
I'm a North Shore guy, so it's like
right.
I've never. Well,
but I said, I live in Revere now, but I grew up in the North End.
Sure. No, for sure. I mean,
and I still that's the only place I hang out really.
Yeah, if I'm traveling, and someone asks me where I'm from, like I say Boston.
Oh,
you know
of
what
course.
I mean? Like,
No,
because I'm not gonna tell you like,
that's
oh,
any
I'm from
city.
this town
Right.
from
It's
Massachusetts.
about an hour east. You have to go like 30 miles and take a left. It's like, yeah.
Yeah, no one gives a shit
People
about that.
from like New Hampshire and Maine say that too. They're like, oh yeah, I'm just from Boston.
No, you're not.
Yeah, no, that you're not. That you're not. If
you're not even from Massachusetts,
right,
you're from New Hampshire.
The cutoff of Massachusetts where you can say you're from Boston is like, I'd say like Framingham, honest to God. Because at least you're like on the...
Shout out Framingham State.
Exactly.
That's where I went to college.
Oh, really? That's awesome. I went to LaSalle College, actually. Or LaSalle University, as I mentioned before. Yeah. So, as I mentioned, like, if you're at least on the green line, because LaSalle is at the end of the green line, on the D line, pause. But, right. Rename your lines. Like,
we didn't have a single one of those.
No, absolutely not.
It took us an hour and a half to
if
get
you're
into
at
them.
least, on a subway stop, you can say you're from Boston because it's easily accessible to get to.
Sure, that's
right.
fine.
Even the commuter rail, I'll give them that. Like Newburyport, like it goes all the way up to Newburyport. I'll give you that.
You give it to Newburyport?
Honestly,
that's not Boston.
I know, honestly, but like
it's fucking Newburyport.
A little bit, but yeah. But like you said, it's
I love Newburyport though.
Right. It's
Great
like if someone was like, "Oh, I'm from Andover," like, "Oh, where's that?" It's like, "Oh, it's about an hour from Boston." Blah blah. It's just say Boston. But yeah, that has been Beantown Banter, and this has been another excellent episode of Say That Podcast. I got to give a great shout out to Mike Scarfo, the head of AOA Studios, and a great teacher, a great turntable teacher as well. Be on the lookout for Masterclass album dropping 2024. Do that. And if you are in the North Shore, even if you're anywhere in Massachusetts, I don't give a shit actually, book AOA Studios. Your podcasting, video, music, production, engineering, anything else, book them. Shout out to the good people for tuning in to another great episode. And as always, don't say this,
say that.
Thank you for the help, Mike. And we will see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Peace.